The Ottomans were an empire that lasted from around 1300 CE until 1923, making it one of the longest lasting empires in world history. The empire was founded by Osman, and Ottoman is Latin for the House of Osman. The Ottomans were ruled by sultans, one of them being Mehmet II, who ruled from 1451 to 1481. Mehmet saw Constantinople as a threat, so he attacked them by dragging 70 ships overland and around the chained harbor. It took 57 days, but Constantinople fell in 1453. Under Mehmet, Constantinople's name changes to Istanbul and becomes the capital of the Ottoman Empire. Mehmet opens the city to new citizens of many religions. But Ottoman expansion reached its greatest under Suleiman the Lawgiver, who ruled from 1520 to 1566. He took valuable territory from Mesopotamia and Egypt, thus securing control over the western parts of the Asian trade. And he defeated the king of Hungary and laid siege to Vienna in 1526, and he turned the Ottomans into a huge naval power. The Ottomans controlled about half of what the Romans controlled, but it was much more valuable because of trade in the Indian Ocean. All that land created a lot of wealth, but they needed to be ruled. So they created a new ruling class called the Devshirme, made up of enslaved Christian boys who became bureaucrats or janissaries, who were an elite fighting force. The decline of the Ottomans starts when Suleiman's incompetent third son takes control of the throne. After that, the Ottomans' Turkish fleet is defeated by Spain and Italy, and the empire slowly crumbles due to a long line of weak sultans, and finally ends in 1923.
The Ottoman Empire was one of the longest-lasting empires in modern history, spanning from 1299 CE to 1922. But after its meteoric rise throughout Europe, spreading Islam and bridging the Eastern and Western worlds, the empire slowly deflated and collapsed. Ultimately, some of the worst geopolitical situations we've seen in the past century can all be linked to the fall of the Ottoman Empire. So, what contributed to this steady collapse? Well, at its peak in the 16th and 17th centuries, the empire covered more than 15 million people and about 2 million square miles throughout the Mediterranean Sea, as well as Southeast Europe, Western Asia, the Caucasus, and North Africa. But the spread of the empire upset neighboring Western European powers, which saw the Islamic Empire as encroaching on their own conquests. In particular, the House of Habsburg was one of their most aggressive rivals, and the two fought a series of wars in the 16th through 18th century. The most important of these wars was the Second Siege of Vienna in 1683. The Ottomans attacked the Austrian city for a period of 2 months, while Poland and the remaining Western Holy Roman Empire cooperated to fend off the invaders. Eventually, Austrian and neighboring forces overwhelmed the Ottoman army, finally stopping their advance through Europe. The defeat was so great that within years, the Ottomans were also pushed out of Hungary and Transylvania, and forced the empire to stop expanding throughout Central Europe via the Treaty of Karlowitz. This first major concession marked the beginning of the end. After being forced into peace throughout the 18th century, the Ottoman military lost ground, both geographically and morally, against their European counterparts. Seeing their power waning, the Ottomans instituted strict reforms known as Tanzimat, which encouraged empire-based nationalism and equality among the vast diversity of Ottoman citizens. Although the remaining regions became stronger and more unified, the empire as a whole continued to shrink. In the early 20th century, the First World War provided an opportunity for the Ottomans to reclaim their lost territory. So in 1914, they joined with the European Central Powers against the Allies, consisting of Britain, France, and Russia. Although the Central Powers had some early victories, including the collapse of the Russian government in 1917, by the following year, the Allies had overwhelmed their opponents and won the war. British troops occupied the Ottoman capital of Constantinople, and the entire empire was ceded to the Allies, who partitioned it away so it could no longer threaten Western power in the region. This geographical carving significantly increased the participation of countries like Britain and France in colonizing and occupying regions of the Middle East, and gave rise rise to what we now know as the modern Arab world. What little was left of the Ottoman Empire was ultimately consolidated as the Republic of Turkey. The effort to split a once unified empire along almost arbitrary borders created significant conflict between the new states and regions. One example was the British government's support of a Jewish homeland to be established in Britain's recently acquired territory of Palestine, a move which today has created a considerable amount of conflict and strife. Another example saw France acquiring the region of Syria and Lebanon, which created a number of smaller states with arguably incompatible populations, such as Sunni and Shia faiths. Today, the long-term result of Western powers taking over the former Ottoman Empire have led to a huge number of unexpected consequences. Although it was an extremely long-lasting empire and fell less than a century ago, today its former glory is more of a memory. And if you want to know how the empire grew to be so large and how it maintained its hold for so long, you can watch the first part of the series, The Rise of the Ottoman Empire.